Hello.
Hello.
Waiting on the other two.
Hey.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Perfect.
All right, Cade, can you hear us?
Cade.
Cade, are you there?
All right, I'm here.
Okay, all right. Awesome. Well, this is a recording, so we'll just go ahead and get started. So this is Module 7, Group 7, and this is for ALTC805VD. And I'm going to go ahead and get us started talking about PBIS, which stands for Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. And as I was researching this and talking with our administration, I was really surprised that we didn't actually have anything in place for this. It is something that with it working with the MTSS that we're working towards, but there's not really anything currently in place in it. PBIS is divided in between 3 tiers, where tier 1 kind of says like this is the regular practice, like this is the stuff that we do on a day-to-day basis. So that's just our general classroom management. Tier 2 is working with those students that are at risk for developing more serious problems. And then tier 3 is that individualized support with those formal assessments. One thing we're doing, like I said, we don't really have anything at Dodge City High School in place. We have a lot of behavior issues, so that was really surprising to me. But one thing that we're working on is a behavior matrix that is it's being designed at each school, and then each school is coming together in the district. So it's going to be something that's aligned K through 12. And so working on common language and common terms that students know by the time they get to the high school that these are their expectations, because that's what they've been doing already. In this matrix, we kind of have the theme, it's called Be Real. So respect plus effort plus attitude equals learning. And so that spells out real. So that's kind of what we're working towards. Do you guys have anything that would fall into any of those tiers?
Not really.
Okay.
We don't in my district either. Not really.
Okay. Eric, what about you guys?
No, we don't have anything like that in place there.
Yeah. Do you guys see a lot of behavior issues that something would need to be in place?
So in my district last year, we had at the grade school several classrooms that had some kind of like emotional problems, like before they would get their day started. Felt like we needed to kind of take care of those before learning could take place. So the only thing that we really have that's kind of similar to that, I guess, would be the program's called Sanford Harmony, but it allows kids and teachers about 10 minutes in the morning to get into a circle and talk about really anything they want. If there's an issue going on, or if something happened at home, or, whatever it is, but allowing them to kind of engage socially before their day even starts, so that maybe those behaviors can be under control. That's kind of the only thing that we really have at our school.
Yeah, I think that's awesome though.
That's really cool. I wish we did that.
What did you say that was called again?
The program's called Sanford Harmony.
Okay.
I know.
Right.
We do the deals on the whiteboard, and they just hand in a bell ringer activity every day, and that's helped that way.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we'll kind of move on to Eric and you talking about MTSS.
All right. So one thing at our school, we're a 4-day school week. I know I've mentioned that a few times. And so I didn't realize that was what the program was, but we do the last 30 minutes of the day where the kids can go around to any teacher that they need help with. So multi-tiered system, it works great. It's I've had all my notes written here. It allows all the kids to participate in class. They may be on different learning levels, but it takes you to be really effective at teaching to them. You need to make sure that you're constantly giving them good instructions to do it. Some of the things, and we can the kids can work together, and it's perfect because if one kid gets the assignment, I can allow them to help another student that's not as far along. I know you were talking a little bit earlier, Delisa, that you guys had that in your school.
Yeah, so we have it's called opportunity period. Usually when I explain it to people, I explain it as homeroom, and it's our second block. So we're on block 82-minute periods, but our second opportunity period is 46, and it's that time that students can stay in their regular classroom, or they can go to other classes to get help, or I can call kids in, and so it's kind of geared in two different directions. One, well, it's also when club meetings happen as well during that time. So it's a multi-purpose time. It's used for a lot of different things. But it is a great time that if I have a kid that has an F, I'm going to call them in and work with them. Or the same thing, if one of my kids has an F, I'm going to send them out and say, hey, let's go get some help with those teachers to figure out what you can do. So it's a very informal part of MTSS.
Gotcha. So, like I was saying, the system's it's very proactive in making sure that everyone's, even their social behaviors on kind of hopefully the same level as everybody. It really emphasizes positive goals and positive expectations. My students know that I hold a high expectation for them, especially the ones on my judging teams that were gone on the road all the time, because we are gone constantly. I mean, we're going to be gone here for 5 days in the next 15 days. So my kids know that they have to stay on top of stuff. So it allows them to go and work with the other teachers that they need help with. So, and the teachers appreciate that my kids can go and do that, and all the kids in the school can. I wish more of the students would actually go and get help, because we do have students that are slacking in some of our other classes that don't do it and just get by. Some of the other things it was talking about, another thing that the MTSS system falls along is the UDL program, which is Universal Design for Learning. It helps them provide instruction in diverse ways. Not all students learn the same. I mean, we see that from everybody. Some students may get it one way, but another group of students get it another way. So I've really had to watch the way I do my lessons and make sure that we can get all the kids on the same level there. And it motivates the students to do them from different levels, to tackle them and make sure that they understand it a way that they can. I mean, I may understand it some way different than the way that I do. Have any of you guys experienced that with your students?
Not really.
So MTSS at our grade school kind of looks like each grade takes about 20 minutes a day and divides their classes into different tiers. So some kids may be working on reading, some kids may be working on math, some may be spelling, some may be, whatever it may be, but the class is kind of split. And then for about every 9 weeks, they'll go and they'll work with either another teacher or a para during that time, and work on either the math facts or the spelling or whatever to try to build up their skill level a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And that also allows for the kids that may be more advanced to work on some things that are more advanced that they're not necessarily getting to during the class period time. So that's
Right.
kind of what it's like in our grade school.
Awesome. Do
So-
they do that?
Go ahead.
Do they do it on the high school level at all?
At the high school, we do MTSS classes based on our STAR scores. So we take STAR reading and STAR math courses, and then we look at all like freshman through senior, and we take the bottom, I think 10% of each class, and we place them into an extra MTSS class period during their day. So they either have an extra math class or an extra reading class, those bottom 10%. So that's kind of how we deliver that MTSS during high school day anyways.
Okay.
We're doing the fast bridge, and I talked a little bit about it when we did our planning meeting, but the goal is they're not really focusing on implementing anything yet this year. It's more of waiting for next year after they've had a year of results. They don't just want to judge the students based on their first test. And they're planning on using our opportunity period time for those interventions. So it's not taking those students out of elective classes, or it's still giving them the opportunity to take the classes that they want to take, but still get that intervention time as well. Eric, I did have one question for you. Where you have that time at the end of the day, do you find that students, like we have behavior issues and our students would skip? They had it at the end of the day at one point and kids were just leaving for the last 30 minutes of class. Do you guys find that to be an issue at all?
Not really. We don't have it, but the parents know that they got to be there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we fight that battle. It was actually just that way my freshman year of high school when I went there, and then they changed it because students were either skipping or the kids that needed help during those times were the ones that were leaving early for sports. So then they weren't there during that time period. And so
our sports start afterwards, so they have to be there.
Yeah. So.
And like you said, you got the ones that need to work, but you're right. They do skip or not come see you.
Yeah, absolutely. So. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to Cade with the SIOP.
All right. So the video I watched was actually pretty cool. You were able to sit in on an English lesson, and I believe it was 3rd or 4th grade in a classroom. But there are 4 components to the SIOP, and number 1 and number 2 is content and language objectives are supported by the lesson. And at the beginning, objectives need to be introduced. And something that the teacher did in that lesson that was really cool is she wrote the objectives up on the whiteboard, and she had all the little kids read the actual objectives to her so they understood exactly what it is they were supposed to be learning. I've never actually seen that before. You know, a lot of times you see teachers write the objectives on like a piece of paper and the instructions, and kids won't usually look after it. But I thought that was really cool and unique how she deliberately took time out and made kids see the objectives. So the 3rd little component here is students are engaged 90 to 100% of the time. And to me, it's easy being in the weight room. I mean, there isn't a whole lot of standing around. So all of you probably could, I don't know, just let me know how you keep kids busy 90 to 100% of the time. That, to me, that just blows my mind. I'm glad I don't have to deal with it because I think I would get upset if I had to do it. But that was something that really stuck out to me. And honestly, just the camera would pan around the classroom, and honest to goodness, every single kid was doing something, whether it was talking with a classmate about the objective or raising their hands or actively engaging with the teacher. It was pretty cool to see. So the 4th component is pace of lesson needs to be appropriate, not too fast, but not too slow. And I feel like that's kind of a blanket statement because obviously you kind of need to match what your kids' learning style is and their pace. So I didn't really see exactly how that teacher paced her classroom, other than she had all of her kids, I guess, just kind of checking objectives with her. She wouldn't go on unless every single kid would be able to tell her what was going on. And she used that old classic elementary school teacher tactic, I guess, where she had all the kids' names on the little popsicle sticks, you know, and she'd pull them out and ask the kid what's going on. So I guess that kind of helped keeping all the kids on their toes and not allowing them to kind of daydream. So I imagine all of us use some sort of SIOP in our classrooms.
So I'll kind of jump in. So I have a little bit that I can piggyback on each of those that I'll just kind of touch on briefly. So I always write a mastery objective and I write it on the board. I have a spot on the calendar that it's here's the date. I have a joke of the week, the mastery objective, and then kind of like the daily plans. And so my kids look at it because they want to know what we're doing today. They'll be like, what are we doing today? And I'm like, look on the board. But I am the worst about saying my objective at the beginning of class. That is one thing that I do it like the first couple days of the semester. I'm really good about it. And then I'm like, oh, whoops, nope. And so I will be the first to admit, like, I am not very good at that. But I know that if I did do that, my students would know, like, this is our end goal today.
Right.
But one way that I keep my students engaged, so we're set up on 82-minute blocks, and that can be really difficult because that's a long time to entertain 31 kids in a classroom.
Yeah.
And so I always, when I'm doing my lesson plans, I always make sure I have at least 3 different activities. And so I never, even if we're working on this really big project, we're not going to just sit here for an entire class period and work on that project. We're going to have at least 2 other things that we can do. And I mean, so last Friday, for example, we were doing something and I told them, I said, guys, I just want you to take 20 minutes and I just want you to stretch. I just want you to walk around the room. I want you to go walk and get a drink of water. And so I literally had 20 minutes of nothing essentially, but it was that time for them to regroup before we moved on to something else. And that kind of helped pace the lesson because they were starting to get kind of unfocused and they were being less productive. And so we stopped, we took that break, and then we were able to join back in. Pacing the lesson is one of the hardest things ever, though. I think it's one of the hardest things about lesson planning is that you either plan too much or you don't plan enough. And so planning ahead of time can be very difficult because you never know what's going to happen at the end of the day. So that's kind of what I have to say about each of those and how it impacts me.
That's a cool idea. I just figure being on a block schedule, like I grew up in it, I went to Hayes, but having to teach in it, that would be a nightmare. I feel like, glad I don't have to deal with it.
I'm glad we're not in block either. You know, with the welding class, man, them guys know when they get there, they better be out there welding or I'm going to be getting after them. So, you know, I'm guessing it's probably the same with your weightlifting deal. They get out there, they get to work, you don't got to worry about them.
Right.
Now, I've also got that same group of boys in the class the next hour, and it's like, ooh, you got to make sure you got hands-on activity, otherwise they're bouncing off the wall ready to go welding again. But, you know, one thing we do, like I said, we do a lot of hands-on stuff. We do a lot of our practices for contests during class time too. You know, we'll do lesson for 20, 30 minutes, make the lesson short, and then go and practice for 20, 30 minutes. And that keeps them busy. And they know that they all got different contests they're working on and keeps them busy. So,
And so my position's a little bit different. I am the counselor, director of student services at my school, so I don't actually have to keep kids busy for an hour's worth of time. So, but I can imagine as well, Cade, that would probably be very difficult, and probably the most difficult part of lesson planning is trying to have just enough to get done. So.
No doubt.
It's always hard because it's, you know, finding that balance, especially in my classes. I have the kids that are really advanced and I have those kids that are falling behind and struggling. And so it's how do you cater to both of them? And I don't want to punish these upper level kids by giving them more work that, you know, it's like, hey, you get more work, but then that's kind of punishing the lower level kids because then they're going to end up with homework if you're making them do it. And so I let my kids color at the end of class. And some teachers think that they just think that that's absolutely ridiculous, but coloring is a stress relieving to me. And so if they spend the last 5 minutes of my class coloring, I know that they're going to be mentally prepared for their next class. And so I really don't see a problem with it. I think they could be doing a lot worse things. At least they're not sitting at home. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yep.
But all right, Danielle, if you want to finish us off with the IPS.
Yes, absolutely. So I was doing a little bit of research on the background of it and things like that. So in 2010, the Board of Education approved 11 new career and technical education programs. So like our FACS and our ag programs and things like that. So the idea behind IPS is that individualized plan of study. Each kid is going to leave their high school with a enter into their high school with a plan for the next 4 years of high school leading into their career readiness on the way out. And so in 2014, the state suggested that all grades 8 through 12 participate in the IPS program. And so what it looks like is finding, each kid will take like a career interest survey as well as like a learning style survey. And so when they do those, then they can search into the career clusters that Kansas has established. And all of those things that they're researching goes into their IPS document at my school anyways. I don't know how other schools do it, but this is how we do it. So their career interest inventories, the scores are all written down. They can go back in and search those career clusters. Each year they will do that. And so based on the classes that they're taking or the experiences that they're having in high school, actually those might alter. So then the next year they may be looking at a different career path, or understanding that, you know, I didn't learn as a visual learner, I'm an auditory learner. And so adjusting those learning skills for the individual plan of study. So our document includes things like graduation requirements, their career paths while they're in high school, potential career paths while they're in college, even allows for like the workforce kids that are going to get out and go straight into the workforce. Those are all in the document. They're able to put those in their document. And then what we do at the end of the year is we have student-led conferences. So they take their information from their IPS documents and put it into a PowerPoint presentation for their parents. And then they present that to their parents coming in. And I was also doing a little bit of research and found an article through Harvard that says, basically, it's a long article, but basically just says that we've put kids into a one-size-fits-all model too long. This IPS allows students to have more individualized plans, but also they can adjust those plans so they're tailored to them when they leave. So we are setting them up, or the idea is that we're setting them up to enter into the best career path and college path or work readiness or whatever it is once they leave high school. So we do IPS in our school once a week at the end of our day in our seminar time. It's about a 17-minute period. I have little lessons for them, send it to the teachers, and the teachers help them each research that and put it into their documents one day a week. And then we have our student-led conferences in the spring. So that's kind of what that looks like.
How has the student-led conferences went over?
Well, this is my second year in the district. Last year I was at the elementary school, and this year I'm at the high school. So I didn't actually get in on those last year at the high school, but my husband happens to be a teacher at the high school too. So I kind of learned through him, but some of them go really well and some of them don't. You can't, of course, there's a lot less parents that show up at the high school level. And a lot of times that are showing up are the parents whose kids actually have good PowerPoints put together and good plans and things like that. Sometimes it's really difficult to get those kids' parents in who, you know, they don't really support them at home anyways. So I would say, you know, some of them go well and some of them don't. I will also say that our kids have not quite bought into the idea of IPS yet. So a lot of them are pretty apathetic about it, but we haven't been doing it long enough for kids to have done it in high school and then graduated and been able to come back and say, oh man, that really helped. Because I forgot, we also do, like, we work with our English department. So we have resumes, cover letters, job applications, mock interviews. We do all that stuff by the time they're seniors. So we haven't really had a lot of feedback yet because this is really only the second year that we have implemented it. So
okay,
we started out so when I was a student, and then even my first year teaching at the high school, all of the teachers went down into the commons and into the gym area, and they lined us up alphabetically, and we sat there. And so parents just came around and just went to the tables, and we had like a 9% attendance. So we have almost 2,000 kids in our school, and we only had 9% of our parents coming. And so it was kind of like, okay, obviously we have to change. And so the BLT, the Building Improvement Team, the team, we came together and we said we have to do something differently. And so last year we actually switched it. And so it's held in the classroom, and we work with our OP students, and we create the PowerPoint with the OP students, and it is the teacher's responsibility to reach out to the parents and invite them. And so I have a letter that I send home. I call my parents, I email my parents, and I basically personally invite them to come. All of last year I had 100% attendance between my classes. But even overall in the school, we went from 9% attendance to 64% attendance.
Oh,
and
wow.
just that one, and really I don't even know that it was it being held in the room. I think it was that fact that we reached out to the parents. And this last one, I had 21 kids in my OP room, and I had 5 of them not come. And so what I did in return of that was I printed off their PowerPoint and I wrote a letter to them and I mailed it home. And so I at least reached out to them to where I said, hey, I did my part. And part of that letter was talking points that they should be having with their student about their student's future. I have sophomores. But that definitely, I mean, it is student-led, and some of the students don't really feel like it's important. The sophomore year is kind of that awkward year because, you know, they have high school kind of figured out, but they're not ready to start applying for college yet. And, you know, so we are kind of in that awkward year. I expect the attendance to go back up once they're juniors. But it's been successful for us. So, you guys have anything else to add? We have a couple more minutes left if we have anything else we want to talk about.
We do, at Cimarron, we do student-led conferences as well. And I work with sophomores in my homeroom too. And it's basically, we put it on the kids to tell their parents. We give them a sign-up sheet in our rooms. And actually our kids, I was really, really skeptical of it last year. I just thought the kids would blow it off. I didn't think that they would take it seriously, but our school counselor does an awesome job. She gives all of our kids like a script, what to say, talking points. And like you said, some of the kids take it really seriously, and then other kids, it's like 3 minutes. They sit down, introduce yourselves, go over grades, and then they're out. So, I mean, it really just depends. Honestly, I feel like my class did a halfway decent job, but we kind of practice what to say and all that stuff. So I actually kind of like them.
I wish we
I
would
think
get,
once students figure it out, that a lot of kids will actually enjoy it. It gives them a lot more direction once they're entering college. That's just getting them to buy into it is what we're having difficulty with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Eric, did you have something you wanted to add?
You know, you guys are talking about your student-led conferences. Heck, I just wish I'd have more than 10 parents show up.
Wow.
I could go out to the welding shop and weld for the 4 hours of parent-teacher conference and maybe get bothered once or twice.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I think that it would be worth having some sort of thing where we were required to make appointments with our parents. So not only did I reach out to them and invite them, but I asked them to schedule a time to come to my classroom. And then I mailed them a letter home, basically, hey, this is your time. I look forward to meeting with you. And I think that when they had that appointment time, they were like, oh, Mrs. Collins is expecting me at 3:30. I need to make sure that I can go. And so it kind of put that pressure on them, you know, that it's like, hey, you know, I have this, and I offer incentives for my kids. I give them food if they come. I mean, that's always a good way to a high schooler. But reaching out to the parents one-on-one was really the biggest way. As we start working into the IPS, kind of turning it back on that, the IPS will start being the topic of discussion. But we have them. OP teachers are supposed to be aware of them, but I know nothing about them for my students, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that. I don't know if they're starting with freshmen and then working their way. I really don't know. It's kind of I try not to ask too many questions because they're like, we're working on it. I'm like, okay, cool, let you do. So, but all right, well, I think that's all. So we're right about 30 minutes again. So I'm going to go ahead and get this turned in tonight. And don't forget about the reflection paper that ties to this.
Awesome.
So,
Have a good
have a good night and good luck with the rest of your semester.
You too. Bye.
Bye, guys.